A badge of honor. Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But that's not how it feels today, and the stress of the job is taking its toll, taking lives through suicide and post-traumatic stress injury. A Badge of Honor podcast features the cast of the same name, Sam Horwitz and John Salerno. Sam, John, and the team offer the first responders workshops through their critical incident stress management teams and mental health liaisons to offer state-certified T-Cole credit programs that save lives. It's time to smash through the stigma. It's time to heal from your injury, and it's time to back our blue. Welcome to A Badge of Honor podcast. Here are your hosts, Sam Horwitz and John Salerno.
Hey, welcome to A Badge of Honor podcast with John and Sam. We are powered by the OBBM network. We are having some freezing cold rain here in Texas. I want everybody to be safe. I want to just start off the show by saying today's going to be a very emotional show. It's the aftermath of suicide with families of fallen officers who have taken their lives. So it is going to be a very emotional show. So please, if anything that either hurts you or offends you or something that you're not ready to deal with, please look at the podcast later on. We don't want to trigger anybody's mental thoughts, but we are here to answer questions if you need them, and we will get you the support that you need in case of that. So, hey, Sam, how are you?
Hey, doing great in spite of everything that's going on outside my windows right now. Yeah, to all of everybody that has to be out there, just be really careful if you're in the Metroplex and North Texas right now. We've got a lot going on. Like you said, tonight's episode, we really want to focus on it. It is a serious subject matter, so we're going to limit our commercial interruptions, and we're going to switch things up by making the ask on the front side, to produce the show, to do the show every week. We can't do it without you. Thank you to everybody who tunes in. We have started a new campaign called Roundup for First Responders. You can find it on our website, and I'll put that up right now, badgeofhonor.com. Go on over there. You can click on the donate button. You'll see it. It's called the Roundup. However you would like to help and support, just go over there and click on those links, because we can't continue to do this great work without all of your support. And speaking of incredible support, we want to thank our nonprofit partner, Carry the Load. We were named nonprofit partners for the second year in a row. It's a really intense vetting process, lots of paperwork, lots of information exchanges hands, conversations. And because they want to know that the organizations that they bring aboard, we are doing what we say we are doing. And that is to bring awareness and education around post-traumatic stress injury, and prevent the suicides. We're already in the beginning of the year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're 6 deep. And it has just been a cascade since November of last year.
In the same department.
Yeah, and it continues to repeat that. We seem to have a lull, and then boom, as soon as the holidays hit, right through the new year and into this year. And that's the topic of today's podcast.
I just want to give a quick shout out, because you brought up a good point, Sam. We attended Back to Blue Denton. Thank you, Back to Blue Denton.
Yeah, backing the blue.
Backing the blue Denton. When we talk about going to these workshops, it's not a one and done deal. It's a continuous education. Me and Sam have attended many different workshops over the past few years, and we've sat in different ones. And each time we do sit in one, we learn something new. And, and they reinforce everything that you want to remember. So Don't just think you took a 4-hour workshop or an 8-hour workshop in the beginning of the year and you don't need another one. It's a constant education to train your mind, to muscle memory it, and be part of it. This last seminar with Backing the Blue Denton, I learned so much more from hearing from those different speakers from First and so on. And it reinforces everything. So do not stop the continuous education with mental health.
Yeah, and speaking of that, you can go on to our website, and if you're an active first responder, that includes dispatch, investigators, people in forensics. Go and sign up for our 8-hour workshop, which is coming up. Thank you to our host, the Garland Police Department. It is Friday, February 10th. Starts at 8:30 in the morning. We feed you all day, and we go over some really key pieces of information. You will walk away with building your own mental health and wellness resiliency toolbox. And that's what it's about. It's about knowledge. It's about kind of expanding your mind, if you will, to bring in resources and tactics and tools that maybe you never considered before.
Right.
In fact, our guest tonight, we were in Lufkin. I almost said Lindale. We were in Lufkin when suicide struck, and our guest tonight reached out to us in the midst of, and we have stayed in touch. She is not sitting by. She's bringing information forward. She's being very open with the struggle, what it's like to be left behind, right? And they've got a young family. So, like I said, serious subject matter tonight. So everybody kind of bring your loved ones in if you're watching this podcast on LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube. Huddle around, because this is knowledge for everybody. So without further ado, we are bringing on Leslie Hatch. She is the surviving widow of DPS Texas Ranger Timothy Hatch, who we lost by suicide in December of 2022. Leslie, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being on and being willing to share your journey and your story with us.
I appreciate y'all letting me do it.
Oh, anytime. We're only 30 days. We're only about a month into since you lost Tim. Spam. Since you lost Tim, and I'm sure the road has not been an easy one. A lot of different battles, a lot of different hurdles you had to go through, and trying to keep the family together. And that's what we want to touch on tonight.
Okay. Yeah, it's only been 30 days, but it feels so much longer.
Yeah, let's we've had some conversations behind the scenes. Can you just kind of walk everybody through, about 2 weeks before and then finding out about Tim?
2 weeks before his suicide?
Yeah.
It was rough. He wasn't himself. You could tell that he was spiraling. It was scary. He was sad all the time and angry, and it wasn't the person that I married, because he could be so sweet and loving, and it's like that person disappeared, and the things that would come out of his mouth were not him. And I knew he was struggling. We had talked about it, and we were trying to get him help. He wasn't showing up to work. It was just, you could tell he just didn't want to be here. Um, and the morning that it happened, he had sent me a message because we were separated. We were in the process of a divorce. And he had texted me and asked me if I could come out to the house because he was just not in a good place. And of course, I was working, so I told him, I said, when I get off of work, I'll bring the kids, we'll come hang out, we'll watch a movie. And his response was, no, you don't understand. He said, don't bring the kids out here unless you've heard from me. And of course, right then, I felt like something was wrong, but not wanting to call anybody right then, because I'm sure most people in law enforcement can understand if you get a call on you, how embarrassing that's going to be if it turns out, especially if it's nothing. I know he was already scared about his job. He was worried about what people thought of him. And so I was going to wait. And if I didn't hear from him by the time I got off, I was going to call the sheriff. And I did. I called the sheriff and I was too late. Actually, when I called the sheriff, he had just left to go on Tim's call.
Somebody had called that in?
Yes, he actually did it in front of one of his childhood friends. He had texted him earlier that day, pretty much the same thing he had texted me. He told him that he wasn't doing very well. And so his friend went out there to hang out with him to eat lunch. He was very intoxicated. And when his friend got there, he said he was asleep on the couch and he had a shotgun and a pistol. And so he woke Tim up and got him outside and got him to talking and talked him into going to get lunch. So they went and got lunch. Well, when they got back to the house, Tim kept trying to get him to leave. And he said, I wanted to stay until he either fell asleep or was sober. But he said Tim started playing with the guns and he got the pistol away from him, but he got the magazine out, but he wasn't familiar with a 1911. So he didn't know how to check the chamber. And so he set the magazine in one place and set the gun in another place. And then he went and got the shotgun from Tim and he unloaded it, and then he stepped outside the door to fire it to make sure there wasn't one in the chamber. And he said when he turned around, Tim had the gun, the pistol, up against his head. And he said his friend started screaming, and he said he knew it was coming, so he tried to get outside as fast as he could, but he heard it before he got out. And then he immediately started trying to call 911, but out at the house, we didn't have very good service, so it took him a couple of times, and he didn't want to go back inside, which I definitely don't blame him for that, but the dispatcher kept trying to get him to go check on him. And I didn't ask him if he went back inside, but I know it's affected him quite a bit.
Yeah. Wow.
Take a breath on that, man.
Big deep breath. It's thank you for sharing that, and you touched on a couple of things, and John and I kind of want to focus on certain pieces so that everybody listening or watching can really understand what it really means to make that reach out. What first responder families go through every day, which is stuff like divorce and some signs. We've got to take our first break. Folks, you are listening to a Badge of Honor podcast with Sam, John, and Leslie, surviving spouse of DPS. Sorry, this is kind of difficult.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
We'll be back right after this.
We'll be back.
Move freely, America, without medical restrictions or penalty. Without medical freedom legislation in place, our rights and freedoms are one vote away from being dissolved. Move freely, America, with one voice, without fear of retribution, achieving a common goal, medical freedom. We the people make our voices heard by connecting with state legislators and engaging a constitutionally compliant medical Bill of Rights for all citizens. Individually, change is improbable, but as an aggregate, attainable. It's time to act with one voice. My voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
To protect our freedom, creating one voice that cannot be ignored. This requires your voice, too. Move Freely America. Go to movefreelyamerica.org to find a chapter near you. Plug in, donate, and help our legislators defend our God-given rights under the Constitution. Move Freely America. My voice.
And my voice.
And together with your voice, we're one voice that cannot be ignored. Donate today. MoveFreelyAmerica.org.
Hey, welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast with John and Sam. Our guest tonight is Leslie Hatch, wife of Texas Ranger Timothy Hatch, who completed suicide back in December. Leslie's sharing a story today, and it's very powerful. I mean, it's already affecting me, and I can tell it's already affecting Sam. And, the strength that you have, Leslie, I got to really commend you on right now, and I'm sure it's not easy. So please stop me if I say the wrong things. I just want to, in the beginning of the show, you said you saw flags about 2 weeks prior, right? And you just didn't know how to address them correctly, and that's because of the stigma, and I get that.
And it started way before then too.
So when was the first time you noticed? As Tim had been in law enforcement for how many years?
20, 21.
Yeah, and so he started young. If you've come across his picture, I mean, this story's on, and his pictures are out there. He looks like he's young, like you guys are this young couple, and it's because you can start law enforcement career real early in Texas.
Yes.
So, okay, 21 years. So a lot of people would think, hey, retirement's right around the corner. They're not really thinking of all the trauma that has been accumulated. So when would you say you started seeing changes?
I noticed the drinking started probably about 7 years ago, but that was only when I noticed it. He had told me he had been drinking and hiding it way before that. And then the worst of the changes probably about 4 years ago.
Okay.
Now, if you saw these signs, and this is where we try to get the awareness aspect out, is if you saw the signs, I'm sure people at work saw the signs. People noticed the change in him, because looking at Tim's picture, he was a proud, very stature man, very I'm sure he was an amazing friend and officer, and a great investigator. So I'm sure the people he worked with on a daily basis saw changes as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, they just didn't see it as quickly as I did. He was good at hiding things, but he was also a loner. Talking to his friends that he worked with, he was always by himself. He didn't like to socialize. So I guess he was already different in that aspect. But there, and I thought I was the only one that noticed. But, after the funeral, talking to everybody, most everybody noticed, but just nothing was said. But I know there were people trying to get him help, and he just wouldn't have it. I think a lot of it was a pride thing. He didn't want anybody knowing. He saw it as a sign of weakness. And
that's the conditioning that we get through our academy days, what we're bred into in law enforcement, that it is a sign of weakness. And that's you coming on here today is hopefully going to start the ball rolling where we can change that so we can not have this happen again and show that it's not a sign of weakness to tell your family, your friends, your coworkers, your boss that, hey, I'm having issues and I need some help. We all are very good at hiding things, but we shouldn't have to hide our mental health at any given time during our careers.
Yeah. Or John, like we talk about in our workshops, when and Leslie, you said, people at his job saw the changes. They went to him. They said, "Hey, let's get help." And even though he refused, it's the time. There is a line where if you're a friend, and yes, you don't want to create a problem for potential, continued employment. But when things have spiraled to a point, it's almost like you got to put your arm around them and walk them through the process. Even if we've heard stories to sit down at an appointment with them. You said that what he was going through caused a rift between you in your marriage. Divorce in first responder couples is not uncommon. And so were you guys at any point trying to find some common ground? Because you guys have kids.
Mm-hmm.
This is part of the ripple effect when somebody's gone, what they leave behind. And was there a time at all where you guys were trying to work it out, or was it like, hey, you need to get yourself squared away before we take any steps further?
Well, we had actually talked. I mean, we separated in, I think it was April of last year. And we had separated a couple of times before, but only for short periods of time. And this time I told him it was going to be at least a good 6 months. And during that time, he went to rehab, and he did great at rehab. Getting to talk to him, he was clear-headed. He was himself. He had motivation. He wanted to do things. But as soon as he got home, it was right back into that same rut. And I think he didn't find the support group that he needed, which I think was a big thing. I've talked to 2 other guys that were in rehab with him, and that was something that was different. They went out, they found support groups. And when I think I decided to file for divorce in August or September, because it wasn't getting better. And I thought doing that would give him something to work towards, and, do it for his family, which I've been told, they have to do it for themselves, not anybody else. But I had told him, I said, I want this divorce, but when you reach your sober year mark, I want to go get married again. Because we love the mountains. And I told him, I said, I want to marry you at the top of a mountain. And 2 days later, he was completely drunk again. And
When you
so
say
that-
support, the two other guys found a support, and you're talking about like through AA, or what kind of programs are you talking about on support, or was this support within the department or their realm of friends?
I know one of them, he joined 2 different church groups. And then I want to say he joined an outside group too, but it wasn't AA. And then the other one, I think he was in 1 or 2 groups. Neither one of them were AA. I've noticed talking to law enforcement, they don't really like to go to AA meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
you never know who you're going to run into.
Right.
Yeah.
So finding another group, I think, would have helped him because he loved fitting in. And I know that's kind of weird to say that you fit in at rehab, but he knew there were other people exactly like him there, and he didn't feel judged.
Yeah.
So then him going to rehab, then the department did know.
Yes,
Right.
they're actually the ones that made him go.
Okay, so you do have good. So you do have the department stepping up, making him go, and then follow up. Do you know of any follow up from the department that was required?
I don't know much except for what I was told. I didn't think there was any support. From what Tim was telling me, I didn't think anybody supported him. But after the fact, talking to his superiors, they were watching him. They would check in with him. They would call him constantly. So I think they were trying.
Yeah. Well, that's good that,
Yeah.
kudos to DPS, his section, again, the Texas Rangers and his supervisors for following up. I want to take a shift here. We'll probably come back to the days leading up, but with the support, okay, when you have a department well known what is going on, sends somebody to rehab, comes back, checking in on them. He goes through with completing suicide. You guys, you and the kids, you have 3 kids, are left behind. You're trying to pick up the pieces. You have amazing support from, or do you have amazing support behind you in all of this to help you pick up the pieces?
I do. My parents have been huge. I have a few close friends, and there's been several guys that he's worked with throughout the years that I've had a lot of help from, and just being able to talk to them, whether it's about the good stuff or the bad stuff, they're always willing to listen, and they're always offering anything that they can do. So I've had some pretty special people.
Yeah, John, we know from the support went as far as in terms of the funeral.
I just want to clarify the support.
Yeah.
On something. Because I know, like, in where I worked with the NYPD, the support network was considered the farm if you were drinking too much. Was it support for alcohol, or was it support for post-traumatic stress? Do you know? Did you know? Or do you know if there's the difference between them? Because the two therapies are different.
Are you talking about the support that he was getting?
The rehab,
Did they send him because of his
Oh,
alcohol?
Yes.
Or did they send him because of post-traumatic stress?
It was alcohol, where his counselor before told him that he probably had PTSD, but he wasn't a doctor, so he couldn't diagnose him with it. But he was clinically diagnosed at rehab with PTSD and anxiety.
Okay. Because that's a big thing when I went to rehab, we had people there who were who had addictions, and then there were first responders there that also had that were suffering from post-traumatic stress. And even though some of our sessions were together, when it came down to the therapy, they were totally different, because you have to fix one before you can cure the other. So they're two different ways to go with therapy, and that's why I just wanted to see how it was classified.
Yeah,
I'm not sure when he was in rehab. I know he would have the group sessions and then he would have the private session, but he didn't really talk about the private sessions, so I'm not sure what they covered.
Yeah, we're talking surviving in the aftermath of suicide with a surviving spouse, Leslie Hatch. We will be right back after this break.
Interested in starting a podcast or TV show? Worried about what you'll say and how to keep it engaging? Think you'd like to be a guest on podcast, radio, or TV shows? Hi, I'm Susan Hamilton, owner and founder of OBBM Network, and I would like to invite you to an OBBM media training to get the tools you need for a relaxed and polished performance you'll be proud to share. Our specialized training techniques include role play, voice training, and everything you need to deliver a confident, clear, and engaging interaction. Go to offbeatbusiness.com. Go to the calendar and register for a training that's convenient for you. Dates available now, 214-714-0495.
Hey, welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast with John and Sam, with our guest, Leslie Hatch, wife of DPS officer Timothy Hatch, who we lost back in December to suicide. We're discussing today the aftermath and what suicide leaves behind in its wake. And Leslie, you've opened up so much today. Today's probably one of the most powerful shows we have endured. And I want to thank you once again for joining us, because you speaking out heals so many. There's so many questions. I was just looking at a website today about the 5 stages of grieving. You have denial, you have bargaining, anger, depression, acceptance. But when it comes to suicide, you have that 6th one, and it's the why. Mm-hmm. You can probably get the close on all 5 of the ones that I mentioned, but you don't get the closure on the why. And when we're done,
sorry.
No, you're good. Right. You're good.
Almost done, promise.
Yeah. And that's probably the hardest thing that goes through so many families' thoughts. The more than 160 last year are sitting home, probably thinking the same thing as you are today. So, good, Sam. I'm sorry, you had a follow-up question on that.
Yeah, we were talking about support, and when we found out that that Tim took his life, DPS, it was out there on every news source. With everything going on on the border, the news tends to focus on DPS, and so we found out about it, and you just talked about support. Because it was out there, everybody knew the manner in which Tim died. When you told John and I in another conversation we had that it was like 250 law enforcement officers in their dress uniforms came to his funeral to show support for you, to remember Tim, because again he was with DPS for such a long time. What did that mean to you and for the kids?
It was really special, and I guess what hit me the most was that he missed how much support that he really had. But it was special to see that many people there, because towards the end he felt like he had nobody, but really, he had everybody.
Wow, that is so that is so powerful. I got the chills. I got the fear going.
And I'm thinking about something that someone said to me a long time ago, and it's like when if someone could write a eulogy about you now while you're still alive so you can hear it and know the people that you have around you, because you're 100% right. You feel alone, but 250 brothers and sisters stood up in uniform. He was never alone. And we feel alone all the time. We can fix this. We can fix this.
Yeah, just reading the shirts right here. There's a reason why we wear this. We wear it at our workshops because it is breaking through that stigma. Leslie, you said that he wanted that Tim wanted to fit in, and I want to use his name. I'm purposely using his name. That Tim wanted to fit in. That Tim was part of a team at work. But he also felt like because of pride that he couldn't really open up to anybody. For everybody that is watching, this is what we're trying to smash through when we say we're trying to smash through the stigma. Because knowing that 250 of his brothers and sisters were right there at any point, all Tim had to do was just say, it's not working, or I need help. He left behind 250 plus you, plus your kids, souls that are forever touched by him not being here with us anymore. And that is the ripple effect. This is what John and I, what we hear all the time. And that's why it's worth taking the breath. Just stop. Just stop for a second and listen to what Leslie is saying and reach out. You have got tons of people. You think you don't, but you've got tons of people. You are not alone. And you never know. You will never know if you just check out. But we're here tonight discussing this really, really deep, difficult topic so that we can help the people listening out there. So Leslie can be an ear for other surviving spouses. Because let me tell you something. To get the email that we got from you, Leslie, in the midst of us teaching and working with the different departments, we all met in Lufkin, Texas to do this, to read the words. And this was like days after. This was days after Tim was gone. To say, I do not want anybody else to go through what I've gone through. Your words. You're here on the podcast. You are somebody who has answered what I talked about earlier today. You're not sitting around saying, why me? You're saying, what now? And you're staying in action for yourself, which is, for your mental health, for your kids. Folks, the world doesn't stop, especially when you have kids. And so what are the action steps that you're taking for you that could be helpful for others listening?
It's honestly just one day at a time. It's like I told y'all, I have good days and I have bad days. My kids help. They have been so strong and so supportive. They've held me up when I've needed it. But after it happened, and for a little while after the funeral, I had so many people come talk to me. And I guess that's the biggest thing I would say is talking is what helped. The good, the bad, even if it's just something to distract me for a little while. It was just being able to talk to people who knew him, where I could just, almost like you just don't want to let those people go because they were a part of him. And I think that helped the days after. But right now, I'm focused on my kids. I'm focused on getting them in a place where we can be happy, and still share our memories. They still struggle. It's hard to share some of the memories.
If you don't mind, Leslie, if you just share the approximate ages of the children that are going through this.
11, 10, and 6.
Okay, so they're from almost babies to going into their preteens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
What you got into action pretty fast with. You're surrounded by a lot of people that hold their faith, very dearly, very close, and I think it was your son that you had mentioned that you have the church in your community.
Mm-hmm.
And John always says, when you meet somebody, it is not by coincidence. And so your pastor has been there for you guys.
Yes. And I think I told y'all he went through the same situation. And so he was able to relate those feelings that my kids have, kind of have something to share with them, which they love him anyway. But I think it kind of helps knowing that there's somebody like you.
Absolutely.
We ready to take a break? Because I just want to jump on a different topic, but
yeah.
I don't know if
are we gonna do the what's going on right now with the insurance? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have a timeline that we usually follow, but we're gonna take our last break because what we're gonna come back with, Leslie, I have a feeling that you're not the only one going through this, and it's a really important thing that we're gonna hit on. So we will be right back.
Hi, welcome to Heroes in Action. I'm Ray Amanat, founder and creator of this training system. I originally made it so that everyone can train for free. We have programs for kids, for women, families, and businesses. I'm an author, speaker, and educator on everything that has to do with violence and bullying prevention education. If you'd like more information about who we are and what our programs are, please go to our website at heroesinaction.us or give me a call if you have any questions at 727-314-2534. We hope to see you here to train.
Welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast with John and Sam, with our guest tonight, Leslie Hatch, wife of Timothy Hatch of the DPS, who we lost last year to suicide. We were discussing the aftermath that's left behind, along with the support that Tim had, but he never really was able to see because his stresses, his addictions overshadowed a lot of the help that was already out there. And I know so many of us feel that same way. We feel that we do not have someone next to us, or we feel that we're alone. But as you said, Leslie, 250 brothers and sisters in uniform supported and came to the funeral to help. Then you had officers from his department walk through with you for the first few days and help you through that. And one thing about when someone dies, and if it's suicide or if it's natural causes, communities come together. You'll get food. but then after a while, it starts to fade, right? And we expect that in with friends and family because they do have their own life. We don't expect it to happen with a department that your husband served for over 21 years faithfully. In a matter like this, the support has to continue. The support, communication, and health. And what we discussed prior to the show was we asked you if you were going for some grief counseling and everything else, and you told us some disturbing facts about some of the support you were receiving. Can you share that with us?
The communication process has not been great. I haven't really been told anything. I've had to try to reach out and find things out myself, and then I get nowhere with it. But I had called to find out what was going to happen with our insurance, because I had been told that I should be able to keep it, but I was confused because I didn't know how it was going to be paid for. So when I called to check on it, they said, "Oh, it was canceled yesterday." And then I got
just like that. No warning, no notices, canceled. You have 2 kids that fall under this insurance as well. You have 3 kids that fall under it, and that's it. No more insurance.
No more.
So and you were in grief counseling. So you were seeing a counselor, and then boom. Yeah, this is, so while the state stepped up in some ways, this is where this is where departments fail the families. So now, it sounds like you're left to try and figure out. You're in the midst of counseling, which when you're in the grieving process, it's called a process for a reason. It's not like you go and then boom, you're done. And you've got the kids as well. So do you have a plan? What?
No, I was going to look around, shop for whatever I could find. I've never had this, I got married to Tim when I was 20 years old. He's taken care of me since I was a baby. So this is a new process for me. I don't know what I'm doing.
See, and this, Sam, we talk about this all the time. Though only 5% of the law enforcement agencies throughout our nation are recognizing suicide as a line of duty death, right? By allowing officers to attend funerals in uniform, they're not giving the death benefits that are deserved to the families. When a law enforcement officer dies in the line of duty, they receive insurance payments, they receive medical, they receive the support that is always needed for a long time. When someone dies by their own hand because of job-related stress and addictions, the department seems to kind of wash their hands. They think because they classified it as a line of duty and we came in uniform, their hands are washed. Tim gave 20 plus years of service to the community, 20 plus years of service, risking his life for a department. And for the department just to say, that's it, and forget about his family, that is something that we really need to get legislation. We need to get our politicians involved to change, because Leslie, with 3 children, you married at 20. He took you through the 20 years of life so far, and now you're left like someone in the water not knowing how to swim. And I hope there's listeners out there who are tuning into this podcast that may be able to have some resources or maybe advice for Leslie, and we'll be sure to get those messages to her. But This is where we have to change this. We have to change the pattern. We have to change the laws that go across our nation.
Yeah, absolutely. And Leslie, you know, our hearts go out to you. We commend you for stepping up and taking action, being in action for your kids. So if anybody, like John said, if you're listening out there and you can help in any way, we've got 4 people still going through a process because it's only been a month, and that's kind of surprising that it's like, oh no, we determine you're done.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing tonight. I know it must not have been easy, but we appreciate you kind of opening the curtains, if you will, and letting people really know what it is like to be left behind when their loved one completes suicide. So we will definitely be in touch. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and go take care of those kiddos.
Thank y'all for having
Thanks,
me.
Leslie. And we'll
care.
see you soon. And you know
Okay.
what, Leslie? You're not alone, because you know what?
Yeah.
Me and Sam are always here for you and your kids.
I know.
Whatever we can
Thank
do for you,
y'all.
always reach out.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Leslie.
God bless you.
Bye.
Whew.
Wow.
All right.
You know,
Yeah.
she's probably one of the strongest women I've ever met, besides you, Secret Service Sam. She has warmed my heart to a point where, man, I want, if I had it to give, man, I would give everything I can to her, because she deserves it. You know, I'm ready to tear up from this. This was emotional. This was emotional.
Yeah. Well, this is, you know, we do the show, you know, we make asks of every show, because just like Carry the Load made us nonprofit partners, we're going to be raising a lot of money. You see the need right now, immediate. If there's anything that you can do, anybody listening that you can do, please reach out. We are going to provide kind of that buffer for Leslie as she and her 3 young children continue to heal. She's allowing us to do this. So go on to our website. We've got a form right at the top. Okay, so if you're able to help out, to guide through, if you're in insurance, but if you're, and you can help, if you're in, you offer grief counseling. Of course, you know, we've got some things going on in the background through the folks that we know. But if you can help out in any way, whether it's, you know, some counseling sessions to help care for this family, anything, please reach out so we can pass your information on to Leslie, so you guys can have that conversation to assess the need. We want to thank everybody again for tuning in. All of the first responders out there, you are absolutely not alone. If this one episode gets to you somehow, please, if you're thinking that you're alone, that nobody understands, you're not alone. And there's plenty of people that understand. Please reach out. Go on our website, click on, we've got partners. There are plenty of people. It's all confidential. Okay. Pride aside. If you have peer support in your department, reach out, talk to somebody. But just understand, when you decide to check out, who you leave in that ripple effect of you being gone from this planet, from your loved ones, from your friends. I hope you take that away. And to everybody serving in our first responder role, thank you for what you do. We're praying for you every day. Thank you for keeping us safe right here at home. We've got your backs. You're truly not alone. To all of our veterans out there, thank you for serving, for protecting our freedoms so we can do shows like this every single week. To our active duty personnel who are fighting wars wherever, attending to conflicts, Thank you for what you do. John, take us home.
This was, I say, Sam, this is probably one of our most powerful episodes. So all I got to say is I'm just going to reiterate what you said. You're not alone. We hear you. Reach out. Fight the stigma. Break that. Break it, because it will save your life. It will save the life of somebody else's. If you see the flags, learn the conversations. Do not be afraid to have those conversations. And if you're a department, if you're a boss, if you're a leader of men in uniform, be that guy. Be that guy to keep that door open, to put your arm around one of your officers and say, I got you. I got you. Now I'll have you till retirement, and I'll have your family. Be that guy. Without that, God bless everybody. I hope you have a safe weekend.
Till next week, everybody. Good night.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBN Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBN Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.